Welcome to the Trading with Venus podcast, where we help you establish strong trading habits, generate consistent profits, and create the lifestyle you desire for yourself and your family. Now your host, Raman Gill.
Welcome to Trading with Venus podcast, episode 14. I'm your host, Raman Gill. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Yohay Elam to the show. Yohay is the founder of the website ForexCrunch, where he shares his analysis and market views with his readers. Yohay learned trading the hard way like the rest of us. Over time, he has found his strength in market analysis, including macros, fundamental news, and technical analysis, which he generously shares with his audience through his website ForexCrunch and his podcast Market Movers. Yohay, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Hi, Raman. Great to be here.
To start things off, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Because we would love to get to know you personally.
Well, my name is Yohay. I'm from Israel. I studied computer science and worked as a computer programmer for many years, in which I was also doing some retail trading. And a few years ago, I started my website, ForexCrunch.com, in which I write about markets, and I focus on that and not on trading for the past few years.
So how did you first get into trading? Like, how did you learn about it? What interested you about trading?
Well, I was always interested in economics and stock markets, and I traded some stocks. And then a friend of mine told me about this Forex trading course, in which you could also stay with the money that you earned in the course and not lose anything. So I was tempted into jumping in, and I was fascinated by what I saw there, by markets, and I began trading on my own, and of course also losing money as well. And so that's how I got into that.
So was there a time when you felt like you had actually failed in trading? Tell us how you got there, and how did you then manage to get past that?
Yeah, I failed in trading more than once. My stories usually began with some big success at the beginning and some euphoria. I think many traders can relate to that. And then, of course, from the first success from bubble, you have the bust. And I lost the money quite quickly and liquidated my accounts twice. So basically, I think my initial success was just luck. And I thought I felt I could do anything. I felt I won over markets. And then after a small loss, I would have the temptation to try to take revenge on markets and, of course, fail in doing so. Not looking back, not fully analyzing what my mistakes were, and sometimes just trading with too much leverage and then wiping out too much before I could learn enough.
So what was your biggest challenge to getting consistently profitable?
Biggest challenge was, to control my emotions, not to trade with too much leverage, not to risk too much. I risked around, the thumb rule is about risking no more than 2% of my account at a time, and then I had more control of what trades I was doing, more time to analyze, more time to trade. And another thing was just to take some time off, not have my nose attached to the screen. That's easier said than done. That was sort of that was the key, not to do everything in dosage control.
Yeah, it can be quite addicting, isn't it? Just watching the charts go up and down and things moving all the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about an aha moment. How did this shape your trading journey?
I remember a trade just after the financial crisis when I saw potential for trading the Aussie against the pound across, maybe overlooked by many, but I saw an opportunity there, and I was focusing more on fundamental analysis. Yet again, I traded with too much leverage, and markets were quite choppy around the turn of 2008, 2009, and eventually, in the short run, this trade failed. In the long run, it was tens of thousands of pips, and that was for me an aha moment that should focus on more long-term trades, more on fundamentals, and less on short-term trades, and less on, especially when markets are choppy, you should trade with less leverage. So that was one trade on one cross. at one point of time that was sort of my aha moment into focusing on a different approach to trading.
Can you actually talk a bit about fundamental analysis as compared to technical analysis? I personally do focus a fair bit on fundamentals as well. I have economics background. I did my MBA. I know a lot in depth in terms of economics. And however, I find a lot of traders tend to focus on Forex traders tend to focus on technicals. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, we just need to know our levels. We just need to know what the technicals are doing, and everything else, it doesn't matter as much. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think fundamentals move markets, interest rate expectations, CPI like we had now, GDP, all these figures shape interest rate expectations and shape the bigger direction of markets. So that's what moves markets, in my opinion. Now, if you want entry points, exit points, stop loss points, then technicals could become useful because we're not the only people looking at these levels. But again, you should trade with a bit more margin, not put your stop loss exactly at the level of resistance or support, but give some more space. So technical levels are useful for placing these points, but fundamentals are more useful for the general direction. And in general, trading for a bit of a longer term rather than swing trading is, I think, more profitable, more safe. Well, nothing is safe, but more reasonable and makes more sense to me.
So what you mentioned about interest rates there, so we are seeing divergence in monetary policy between Europe and the U.S. right now, where the U.S. has been talking about raising interest rates, where Euro has introduced the QE program, basically printing more money and buying assets there. So there's that divergence in policy there. Interest rates, Europe is not raising interest rate anytime soon. Because they're doing the QE at this point, whereas U.S. has gone through the QE already, 2 rounds of QE, and now they are talking about the interest rate hike. As we see for past so many months, the interest rates, because of that, the markets have been reacting to that. So going back to your point in terms of the interest rates, the fundamentals do drive the markets in the big picture.
Exactly. A stark example, but there are many more. For instance, the pound has been relatively strong against the US dollar and got stronger against the yen and the euro, also because of interest rate expectations. And we've seen interest rate cuts in New Zealand, for example, overlooked currency, but I find interesting, and this has weakened the currency over there. And of course, it's not only interest rates; it's also the Canadian dollar with the correlation to oil, and the Australian dollar with correlation to China, and of course many other things. But everything, of course, is fundamental analysis and not in line of support, or resistance, or Fibonacci, or things like that.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. I think knowing your fundamentals or knowing where you are in that broad sense is very, very important, even though you may just be trading your charts and technical levels. However, being aware of it and the impact it will have on your trades, I think that's very important. So can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a trader, and how did this person impact your life?
Many people impacted my life as a trader and later as a writer, publisher. One specific person, when I first got into publishing in ForexCrunch, Kathy Leon, she's a trader and works for GFT and beforehand for FXCM. I found her analysis both on television and on her blog is quite impactful. She made a big impression on me. She knew what she was talking about. She had a nice mix of fundamentals and technicals. So I would single out Kathy Leon as impactful, but there are, of course, many more interesting people in this world.
Is there a successful habit that you believe has contributed to your trading success?
Yeah, well, one habit, as I mentioned before, is the 2% rule of thumb. Never risk more than 2% of your account. Another one is, we all talk about stop loss points, and I know that some traders just are strong enough mentally, hopefully strong enough mentally, not to use stop losses, but some don't put stop loss points because they're not sure their broker will respect this line, but rather do some stop hunting, and what I say, if you don't trust your broker with stop loss points, it's a good time to change to a different broker And this world, there are many good brokers and many bad ones. Having a broker you can trust is also key, not only your trading habits.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Is there a book or resource that you found helpful that you would recommend to our listeners?
I read a book by Greg Mikhailovsky, Attacking Foreign Exchange. I hope I got the name of the book right. Attacking Currency Market, sorry. That's sort of book that keeps you motivated, and I found it good. There's another resource, for those just starting with Forex trading, babypips.com, and FX Street has lots of useful resources. So there are lots of resources online, but for those just beginning, maybe it's better to start with a physical book or an ebook for that, something more in-depth before diving into, taking the day-to-day information from websites. That would be my recommendation.
Actually, the Baby Pips site, I have found them to be quite useful, and their content has gotten quite in-depth lately. I've seen they have added a lot more components to it, to the free course that they have online than they used to have before.
Yeah, I find them useful. Also, FX Street developed their learning center, and as far as I know, more developments are coming. And there's an abundance of information on the internet, but sometimes it's hard to separate the wheat from the chaff. So those two resources are for me the best ones.
If you could do your trading journey all over again, knowing all that you know now, what would you do differently?
I would study more before jumping into the waters, especially talk to myself maybe about limiting the number of hours I dedicate to trading. So being more prepared and being more structured, being more efficient, and not sticking my nose to the screen, which was my worst habit. So those are two things I would do differently.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, you can visit the website, ForexCrunch.com. There's a contact us form. You could also contact me directly at yohay@ForexCrunch.com. Or on Twitter. There are also mobile applications, and I also have a podcast called Market Movers together with my associate Lior Cohen. We analyze what's going on in the market, so there's an abundance of resources to get in touch, and that's part of what I do and what you do, being in touch with the community of Forex traders. It's not only just putting the information out there, but also engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Yohay. Really appreciate your taking the time to talk to us today and sharing your insights with us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. My pleasure, Roman.
We've been chatting with Yohay, who shared the lessons from his trading journey with us, including the importance of managing your emotions while trading and proper risk management. For show notes for this episode, please visit tradingwithvenus.com podcast page, episode 14. If you liked what you heard, be sure to leave us a positive review on iTunes. This will help the show rankings and allow us to bring more great content to you. Once again, thank you so very much for sharing this time with me and allowing me space in your day. I wish you a very profitable trading week. Until next time, this is your host, Ram Gill.
If you want consistency in your trading, we invite you to join our daily market analysis calls, where we provide the levels to find the best entries and targets on an intraday basis. For a 1-week free trial, please visit www.tradingwithvenus.com. Thanks for joining us today. With much gratitude, your show host, Raman Gill.